for November 18th. We are waiting for two other members of the committee. We do have a quorum. We're waiting for Dave McKenna and Dan Koreman. We have Dan Klein here in chambers, and we have Glenn Morey on Zoom. And we see a group here this morning. I know some of you were here about the trail, but we're going to just try to move along. We do have John Weiber has another meeting, so we're going to try to get to him right along, get his highway issues taken care of first.
And Dave are here.
Welcome. Ann Koreman is now here, as is Dave McKenna. Are there any changes to the agenda? The one I have is I've added Terry Carroll. I'm going to put her down after the trail update. She wants to talk to us a little bit about the mental health building district. Terry's here, I see her, or him rather. Is there any public comment this morning? We don't have anybody signed up. Does anybody like to speak? Just if you do, just unmute yourself and say something, and we'll take it. Okay, not seeing any, we'll move on. I'm going to skip chair's report and county administrator's report, if that's all right with you, Amy, and take John's highway department first. Morning, John. You're up.
Thank you for moving me ahead here. I think the only thing that we had here was the, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, all right. Just this report, Morel Road Bridge in the town of Newfield. I think that the last meeting we had discussed submitting a report kind of justifying the use of the temporary structure as more of a long-term structure than originally we had planned. I don't know if there is anything in particular, if you've read through the report, that I can elaborate on, or
folks, what do you think about this? Are there any questions on using the Bailey Bridge, converting it into a permanent structure? Some background noise. So
is that bridge? Is that the one in Newfield off of Van Buskirk Road?
Is that Aaron?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a dirt road, right? It's a very narrow bridge with wooden girders on it. Is that the one you're talking about, John?
no, this is down just outside of Cuda.
Okay,
Off of
all right.
13.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
So in general, for the public, what is your recommendation on this, John?
Well, I think that initially, and this occurred before I came on board, they had made some other truss repairs on various bridges. One that I can think of is what we're calling the Red Bridge, or the Red Truss, that goes over Salmon Creek up in Lansing. And they were going to do the same things on this bridge. Therefore, with the posting that occurred in 2018 or 19, it dropped down to a point where they needed to put another structure in there. I bring up the rehabilitation because they put this new structure right next to the old structure so they could kind of lean across and do some repairs on one side. At this particular point, if we were to put a new bridge in there, I think the rehabilitation of the old truss is not a very good idea. So if we were to put a new bridge in there, we would have to remove the old bridge, remove the temporary structure, put a new temporary structure in. I think I got those two backwards, excuse me, in order to get access, in order to put the new bridge in. We would spend a great deal of money to essentially get back what we already have. So I have used these structures in my previous employment in Chemung County. I think I have 2 of them down there. As long as we keep it clean, that means every spring we go down there and wash it off it's got the same lifespan, the same capacity as a new bridge. It just, in my opinion, that money could just be better spent at another time. So I would leave it in there. The caveat, which was at the bottom of the report, is the structure that's there, we can't find pieces for. So I can't take a 120-foot bridge and cut it into a couple of pieces because I can't find the ends to work. That's a good thing and it's a bad thing. In a way, it's a good thing because now if I get another temporary structure, I have to get something that we can find pieces for. And again, that relates back to my previous experience. We can get them very easy. And that new structure, should it come to a point where we need to, we can put that on this location in such a manner, probably downstream, so that we can take it's confusing. This is like a pea in a shell. You're just moving it all over the place in order to make it work.
Bottom line is, you think that we should continue and just have the Bailey Bridge there, right?
Yes, that's the short answer, Mike. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's fine. Thank you for trying to explain all of that. And Koreman has a hand.
Thank you, John. So what I'm trying to figure out here too, and I appreciate that it's confusing to try and explain. So for the flow of the road, I don't know how to say it, but you don't need to move that. You're going to leave that right in the exact place that it's in. That's not an issue as far as, any factors as far as the flow of the road, the angle of approach to the bridge, or where it sits on the creek or adjacent properties. That's not an issue to leave it there.
Right. I think the words that maybe you're looking for is just a longitudinal alignment of the road.
Yeah.
It flows well. Has not been a problem since it was installed in December of 2018. This has got a few parcels on there. There's 2 or 3 houses. It really hasn't been a problem. But as I tried to relate, it's right where you would want a new one, or just about where you would want a new one. So that's why I would leave it right where it is. And then once we take off the other bridge, kind of open it back up. It's okay for flow. It's a water flow. It's okay for the traffic flow.
And as far as pedestrian safety walking over there, as far as the openings.
Well, I think it's narrow and you wouldn't want to be on the bridge while a car was coming, but there's no traffic. There's 35 cars a day, and that's probably somebody going back and forth. That's how it's reported in the inspection report.
And that would be a similar width to what a new bridge would be, or would it be narrower?
No, the new bridge would be wider, being not a lot of traffic, not a lot of parcels. I would go back with essentially a 16-foot bridge, single lane, which would give you 14 feet width between the rails. The next one up would be 20 feet for additional money.
And this is how wide?
Right now, this is about 12 feet width between the rails.
So I'm wondering if it would, and possibly it's already there, but just wondering about signage to warn pedestrians and people who are driving over it that, if there's it is a narrow bridge, that if somebody's walking, that they want to maybe go slower, or maybe there's already signage there, because it sounds like you said you wouldn't want somebody walking over it while somebody's driving.
They could probably squeeze in there, but I wouldn't want to do it. I would wait for the car to go by. And I believe if I was driving, I would wait for the pedestrian to cross it. as I say, this is a very, very low volume road. Got too many computers going on and grabbing the wrong mouse. And I thought that there were signs, okay, I don't have a photograph of the signs, but the inspection team, DOT, would require signs indicating that it was a single lane bridge. There may not be signs for the pedestrians on there, however.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's possible, because I know that we have a small one here around the corner from me on Podunk Road in Town of Ulysses. And I don't think there is signage, but I wouldn't want to be walking across it with cars going over. And it's a 2-lane, but it's still, most cars actually stop, and it's so narrow that even though 2 cars can fit, most cars stop and wait for another car to even cross. So I'm just thinking, if, signage for cars and pedestrians to avoid, an accident.
Well, certainly Podunk Road is on a different alignment than this road. Podunk Road coming from the village, you're on that tight corner and you really can't see what's coming until you're right up close to it. So a good or wise driver would be slowing down and taking a look what's here. This particular road, you can see who's coming, so it wouldn't hurt to have the pedestrian signs on there, look out for pedestrians or whatever the correct signage is. But I think they're 2 different bridges and 2 different situations.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying it's the same. I'm just saying, people do it here, but I'm just thinking, if that's an issue and that's a fairly newer structure, that, even if somebody's coming from, that's not used to driving that road.
Then you're lost. It's so far out there. Anytime I've been out there, and I've never seen another car other than mine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'd feel better if there was some signage just to warn that it's narrow, and that, rather than leaving it to people that they have to know that, walking across it sounds like it's a safety issue, walking across it if a car went across.
Okay, anyone else? John, anything else you want us to know? Oh, I'm sorry, Glenn Morey has a hand.
John, is there any other way that the neighbors can get away across that creek instead of using the bridge? Or is this the only egress to the local area?
I'm tempted to say waiters. No, no, this is right now, and kind of a little bit to Ann's question, there's 2 bridges there. If pedestrians could use one and leaving the other bridge there, so there is that access for a bicycle, motorcycle, but we try to keep it blocked off.
Okay, so this single lane bridge will meet the needs of the neighborhood.
It is my belief that it does, yes.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, John, now when you were saying that if people go to clean the bridge in the spring and do it seasonally to help prevent any kind of structural degradation, like if that was not to take place, how long a period of time do you think it would take before we start seeing anything noticeable to have to start doing something about any kind of degradation versus cleaning it and preventing that? Can you give us an idea about both timeframes?
I don't know that I could give you something in terms of years. It's essentially a galvanized guide rail that crosses a bridge. So as you crosses a waterway. So if you look at any guide rail along the road that has been there for years and years, it doesn't really receive much in the line of corrosion. When I'm talking about cleaning, it's a spray, but trying to get the bearings clear so that any dirt that it accumulates in there is not holding water. This is a dirt road, so any salt that it would get would be what dripped off of a car that went across it. So it's not you know, on a paved road that's being salted to maintain, you know, for snow maintenance and so forth. So leaving it alone, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years.
Thank you.
John, I want to thank you on the report for the photos. I think photos are always helpful to the committee, so thank you for that part.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? I don't think this is an action item today, it's an information item. Okay, well, John, I think you have another reading, right?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you. And I appreciate everybody allowing me to jump ahead, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We have a lot of people here about the trail presentation. I'm going to ask Barbara. Barbara, how's your time? Could we take all these folks first, or do you need to speak?
Yeah, I think we should do them first because we have an awful lot of items.
Right, that's what I was
And what
thinking.
I can tell, I have some visitors here today who are going to listen and become more familiar with committee work, and they can do something else. How long do you think you're going to need, Mike?
Well, let's see, who's leading this for the planning department?
Scott.
Scott. Scott, how long do you think we're going to need? 20 minutes or so?
I'm sorry, you're talking about the item.
Trail presentation. Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't think we even need that long, honestly.
All right, that sounds wonderful. That sounds great.
About 20 minutes then.
Yeah, good enough. Thanks for letting us know.
So Scott, let's go right into that, because so we've got people waiting. You might want to let us know who you have here today, and let's see if we can, we're pleased to hear from you. This is one of the goals that we had for this committee for the year, was to get an update on the trail situation throughout the county, wherever there is new things going on. Dave, is that at hand?
No.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Scott.
Well, I'm co-presenting this with Fernando too, so let me grab him to make sure he wants to give an intro to the back.
Glad to have Fernando here. I don't see him on the screen.
Yeah, let me go across the office, grab him real quick, but please, I'll join you in 2 minutes here.
Meanwhile, I see Bob Beck is here. I know he's the heart of the rail trail in Dryden. There's a lot. I think we're going to hear about that. Who else is here? We've got Alice Green. I see her, former town board member. She's on the trail committee out there. I see Diane Tasalia Hines, and she's a member of that trail committee, I believe. Who else am I missing?
I think that was him.
We'll just have it. We'll wait just a second here.
All right, apologies, folks. Fernando is signing on. He's going to give you a little bit of a context here for.
We see him coming in.
All right, excellent. We'll let Fernando kind of open things up, but yeah, you see in the meeting packet too, the priority trail strategy, and we're going to talk kind of off of that. A lot of the work we've been doing, but I'll let Fernando kind of open things up, and I'll interject on a couple of key points.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Fernando, thanks for being here.
Sure. So let me, so I'll talk about trails, but first let me say that so you saw the priority trails plan. That document was put together by a group we call the Parks and Trails Network, the Tompkins County Parks and Trails Network, which is an informal coalition of trail supporters and advocates in the county. The list of members is in the Priority Trails Plan. It's actually a pretty extensive list of folks from municipalities, Cornell, my agency, the county, et cetera, and a lot of civic participants and civic groups. And that group has been able to produce the Priority Trail strategy itself, and also was instrumental in developing the ithacatrails.org website, which is a great resource for anybody who wants to go hiking or use trails in the county. And we meet about twice a year and just kind of inform each other of what's going on. And we had a meeting just recently, about a month ago. So let me tell you what's ongoing right now. First of all, there's been a lot of progress over the past, 10 years. I mean, trail development is a bit on the long-term type effort and a continuous effort. And there's been a lot of activity. You're probably familiar with many of the things like the Waterfront Trail, the Black Diamond Trail, et cetera, that have been developed, are in place, and have been great assets, developed into great assets for the community. Ongoing projects include Klein Trail, which is now open from Game Farm Road to Route 13, and also from the village of Dryden to the village of Freeville. The village to village trail is open. The bridge over Route 13 is the design. I guess we're working towards final design, and right away, the couple of right away acquisitions that are needed are in progress. So that's advancing. And the Game Farm Road to Stevenson Road segment is open. The crossing of Game Farm Road is not open yet. That has to be sort of designed and put in place to make sure that there's a safe crossing there for people who are in the East Ithaca Recway and moving into the newly open section. I see that Bob Beck is in the call, so he's very much the expert on that particular trail and whatever's the latest there. Couple more. The city was successful in getting money to build a bridge over the flood control channel at the Cecil Malone alignment. And that project is in design phase and is supposed to go to construction next year. That is a sort of a key link to extend the Black Diamond Trail and Cayuga Waterfront Trail, where they kind of move together. And this is along, I don't know if you've been there, but along Floral Avenue, there's an extension of the Cayuga Waterfront Trail. And where that, at that point where that ends, which is a Cecil Malone alignment, that's where the bridge is going to go. And a bridge should provide a great connection for West Hill residents to get across. You're literally right behind Wegmans at that point. And for folks who not just do shopping, but maybe employed in the Wegmans, Tops, Walmart, all that shopping area, they'll be able to have a safe shortcut through there, where right now they need to kind of go on State Street and Route 13 or Brindley Street, which is just not a comfortable approach either on foot or on bike. So I'm looking forward to that connection. Right now, the Gateway Trail is under construction. This is a trail basically that goes, that's going to rehabilitate, it's going to reopen the bridge to nowhere at the southern end of the city. It goes behind Home Depot to a creek that's back there. It's going to dead end at the creek. In the other direction, it's going to connect to the existing trail that goes up to Stone Quarry Road, which eventually will extend to the Chain Works and connect with the South Hill Trail. But that's in the future. Right now, the section of Gateway Trail is also going to connect with Buttermilk Falls. So that's being built right now. And in the future, so the city has applied for another grant that will extend from the bridge that they're going to build that I was just talking about to the Gateway Trail behind Home Depot. So we're going to close that gap. So somebody in the Cayuga Waterfront Trail, what is now the Cayuga Waterfront Trail, could literally ride off-road on a trail all the way to Buttermilk Falls State Park. Similarly, people who are employed like at Home Depot and such will have access via the trail to walk or bike to employment or to shopping. So it is providing options for transportation, whether it's recreational or people getting to work. The next step, and again, Bob can talk to this, you know, after the Route 13 crossing is completed, we'll be connecting from Route 13 to Freeville itself. And that's sort of, that will be the existing gap in the Dryden Trail that I think will be receiving attention once we're done with the bridge over Route 13. That's all I have. I know Scott has a little more that he can, he has a couple more reports to make. But if you have any questions of what I've said on the Transportation Alternatives Program projects or anything I reported, I'd be happy to.
We go ahead and take Scott and then see if the group has questions for both of you.
Okay.
Great, thanks. Yeah, Fernando, on the back end of this, I definitely want you to note the Park and Trails Network, which I think has helped quite a bit move some piece forward. I just wanted to make a quick update, just to make it clear to folks too that the planning department's continuously involved with support for trail planning, and there's 3 different examples on 3 different trails I just want to bring up. One is the one we've talked a lot about over the years, our community, is that South Hill Trail extension. So this is a section that would go beyond the very popular trail in the city and town of Ithaca beyond, in particular, the first segment between Burns and Banks Road. I would, the type of support we provide is what I would call technical support. We regularly meet with all of the 4 towns affected. Certainly the town of Ithaca is the lead facilitator in that work, but all are involved: Dryden, Caroline, and Danby. I provide mapping, and we help to support a grant submission for the town of Dryden to submit this year for a feasibility study for that first segment of that work. We should know about that next month. The other big work happening with that right now is they are an active, I'm happy to report, active engagement with NYSEG about a formal easement, actually, not a license agreement, which was the previous discussion, but a formal easement for use of that trail segment. A lot of back and forth between the lawyers right now on that, but I feel like that's moving in the right direction. The other one I want to just bring up a few points on is the Black Diamond Trail South, what I call South. Fernando alluded to a lot of the activity, great activity in the city. Of course, we know about the great successes up north, but the southern section between basically Buttermilk and Treeman, there's 3 main properties there that are needed to kind of access and make that formal connection. Town of Ithaca, state parks, and us have strategized over the years for how to kind of support the acquisition. One of those properties has been acquired by the town of Ithaca. Another one is likely or is in potential process pretty soon, and we're having regular discussions with that third property owner too. So that's a real positive piece, a long cooking project, but one that, you know, we want to make sure is done right. So we're keeping tabs on that. The other one I just wanted to mention is my kind of personal favorite is the Finger Lakes Trail. We haven't had recent projects, but part of what is so interesting about that previous one I just mentioned, Black Diamond South, is the multi-benefits. Active floodplain down there to have some floodplain protections, but also recreation. Finger Lakes Trail has a lot of those opportunities as well over the years, where we've been able to have some pretty substantial conservation contributions and protections while also adding a recreational component. I want to certainly applaud Dan Klein in our discussions for updating our National Infrastructure Program a couple of years back, the guidelines to recognize that importance of trail component. It's not the only component, but it's something that's a component for protection that we should recognize that has a real benefit. So we've done a series of projects that have formalized protection with the Land Trust and others on segments of the Finger Lakes Trail over the years. Nothing in the last year-ish, but that's another kind of really active project that I really like, those multi-benefits on those Finger Lakes Trail. I'll leave it there, answer questions, but I want Fernando to just bring up the Trails Network real quick too.
So I'd like to, first of all, ask our guests here on the trail issue if any of them would like to speak. We've got Bob and Alice and Diane. Do any of you want to make any comments this morning? Bob back. Got to unmute.
I think I'm unmuted now. First I want to say thanks to Tompkins County for all of the support over the years. Grant money and lots of other support. So thank you very much for all of that. And our Dryden Rail Trail current project, the Dryden Rail Trail Task Force is in our 6th year, working hard with great success so far, and more work to do. We have a fantastic team working together. A current situation that needs attention, you're probably all familiar with, trail on both sides of Game Farm Road is open. Through the game farm, the trail was opened, and the two old 150-year-old railroad trestles that cross Cascadilla Creek within the game farm were renovated by our town highway and DPW crews this summer. And so that trail is now open all the way to Route 13 from Game Farm Road, with the exception, as Fernando has mentioned, the Game Farm Road crossing is not open. And it has never been open since, of course, the railroad through the game farm was overgrown and impassable until this summer. People for years have gone around, trail users, hikers, bicyclists, runners, have to go up Game Farm Road and across Stevenson Road to access, to connect the two trails, East Ithaca Way in town of Ithaca on the west side, and the continuation of the Dryden Rail Trail on the east side. So that is an unsafe situation and remains unsafe because trail users are either, with the trail open on Dryden side now, are either illegally crossing through the past the gates there onto the trail through the game farm, or else still using the road. We need county highway approval to install safety features. Our two towns working together, Dryden and Ithaca, are needing county highway approval for installing the safety features so we can open up that crossing and make it safe. We are sort of stymied at the moment with not, our proposal was not accepted. The plan that we prepared was not accepted by County Highway. And I'm frustrated because they have given us no clue as to what would be acceptable. So I'm looking to somebody, county, to perhaps help facilitate this process of getting out county highway approval so that we can quickly open up that crossing and make it safe. It's not safe now. So I just bring that up as a current urgent need. And we had hoped to be able to open last month or this month to actually open that crossing, but it's not happening. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Turn to Amy Hendricks, our Deputy County Administrator. Since John is gone, Amy, is that something you could at least follow up on and ask them, you know, what they're expecting to see there, so that the trail committee and the town can know how to go forward?
Yeah, I'm happy to follow up with Jeff on that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Alice or Diane, would you like to speak? Okay, then let's open it up for questions for Fernando and Scott and anyone else. Oh, Alice, are you trying to get through to us? I see you're lighting up.
I was just going to say that I think Bob summarized it really well, and we'd love to meet with Amy before she reaches out to Jeff.
Okay, Amy, I think Amy heard that. Scott?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one more note too, that the one of the things that's inspiring to me, but also I think a really helpful component that's coordinated out of our shop too, is Nick Helmholt, my colleague, is the convener for the County Parks and Trails Network. That's where we talk a lot of these projects twice a year. It's really great to see all the people working on these different projects. You forget about a lot of the details, but it's a great time to network and kind of clarify questions and learn some things. So that's something that I just wanted to not miss, the fact that that's a regular meeting of the big group of kind of connected folks working on this. And it's a really inspiring piece for me.
Okay, anyone else like to speak? Ann?
Thank you. Are these maps available at the visitor center?
What do you mean by these maps? The ones that are in the Priority Trails Network?
Or some, yeah, just I'm thinking, you know, you have many miles of trails. So for instance, if I should go to the visitor center and say, you know, can I have a map so I can, you know, bicycle or hike the
Right.
local area?
So the trails are included in the bike suitability map for the county that my agency produces every 2 years. What we don't have is a map of the whole network, countywide network. I think in part because there's still significant gaps, but it's an idea that, okay, at some point, you know, when do we start producing a map that shows the existing trails in a more, you know, in a countywide format so people can see how they connect. So the trails are included in that map. Let me just mention another map that was produced that is in existence. This is an initiative from TCAT and class at Cornell University, but they did the TCAT to Trails project that you may have heard of. And that was really a really interesting project to help inform the public on how they could take the bus to get out to recreational assets in the county. They call it TCAT to Trails. It's actually a physical map, and it's a great product. They've been trying to put it out there. It's sort of, the whole idea originated with a real equity concern that, you know, low-income communities, particularly in the urban area, who may not have access to a car, may not have also the information how they could take advantage of this recreational trails, which are near the city. You know, we all recognize how fortunate we are to have all this resources right nearby, but if you don't know about it, or if you don't have a way to get there, it can be a problem. But here, TCAT really offers a number of links that allow you to take advantage of this.
Okay.
But Ann, I'll make a note of that and see how this would be a next step, and to start to advertise our countywide network as it starts to come together.
Right, because it seems like there's a lot already on here, you know, and you know, for whether it's local people, you know, to have that map in their hand and they're going around bicycling or hiking. So that could be a place where people could pick it up. And then also, I haven't done an extensive search, but just trying to look really quick at the Visitors Bureau, you know, on their website, you know, a link to all of this, especially since this is saying already that people that use some of these trails stay 3.5 days here in this area.
That's a good point. Anyone else? I'd really like to see this trail priority strategy that's in our packet sent out to all the legislators, if that hasn't happened already. I don't know who wants to do that, but I think they would find it very informative.
We
can do that.
Anything else
Absolutely.
this morning? Go ahead. I want to thank Fernando and Scott and certainly all the folks on the Dryden Rail Trail who are here this morning to help us understand how we're moving forward. I think it's exciting. Bob, your next assignment is to do from Freeville to Groton. I know that's somewhere in the back of your mind there.
You want me to comment on that?
Well, seriously, if you want to, but at some point we ought to connect Groton. That's my feeling.
Well, there are two ways out of Freeville. The two train lines crossed in Freeville when it was a pretty active community then, more so, with two train lines. One from Ithaca through Varna, Etna, Freeville, went on to McLean and Cortland. And the other, as you probably know, comes from south from through Dryden, through Freeville onto Groton and Auburn. And so there are two directions one could extend our Dryden Rail Trail from Freeville. One to McLean and Cortland, and the other from Freeville to Groton. Both are problematic in terms of landowners, especially the Freeville to McLean section. And it's my long-term hope that, as Alice and I say, next generation sometime, we could make those two connections. There's strong opposition from some local landowners between Freeville and McLean, and some strong support, but I don't see it happening right away. And Groton might be easier, perhaps. Alice, I see you there.
Alex?
I just wanted to add, I appreciate your bringing that up, Mike. It's a matter of discussion right now as Dryden looks at updating our comprehensive plan. The planning board has received really significant opposition to even including those spur trails to Groton and Cortland in future trail planning maps. So this is very much a matter of discussion for us in our comprehensive planning process.
Okay, thanks for that info. All right. Is there anything else? Otherwise, I think we're going to move on in our agenda. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to our Department of Recycling and Materials Management. Barbara Ekstrom is here. Let's see, who else? Jeremy, who else you got, Barbara?
Well, let me take the opportunity to introduce my staff.
Thank you.
And yep, so we have a number of items today for the committee. And I wanted for some of our staff who are all part of developing the agenda to hear a committee meeting. And you know Jeremy, and Jeremy has helped us to put together the recycling presentation as our communications coordinator. Jackie Maloney is here. She's our fiscal coordinator who has been helping and works very directly with Rick Snyder on budget work and budget adjustments. And Nancy Clark develops the agendas, and she's my senior administrative assistant. And then, of course, you guys all know Leo. So that is who we have here, and I'm ready to, it's my pleasure to go over all these items with the committee.
Do you want to do a presentation first, or do you want us to take up the
No,
resolution?
I would like to go in the order that we have everything here.
All right, so you'd like us to do the resolution?
Yes.
All right. We have Resolution A, urging New York State Legislature to increase recycling and reduce municipal waste costs by expanding the New York Returnable Container Act. That's ID 10529. Dan has moved that. Is there a second? Seconded by Ann Koreman. Go ahead, Barbara.
Well, Mike, I really appreciated that you brought to our attention the NPR discussion. I just recently attended both the National Recycling Conference online and the New York State Association of Recyclers. And I will tell you that this is a huge topic since it failed last year and the year before, but things are very different. We now have the governor, a different governor, and there's no question that the former governor was holding this back and had relations with the wine industry that was opposed to it. So when you brought it to my attention, I said, the timing is perfect for us. And you asked me to look into what we had, on the books. NYPERG has also, prepared information. They don't have a resolution, but this resolution came from NYSAR 3. And I reviewed the whole thing in great detail. It's still very applicable. And again, Mike, thanks for bringing it up. I think we want to take a lead role in this conversation.
I could say that I've been a fan of the bottle bill since the early 80s.
You have.
I remember when the big fight happened over the nickel deposit and what they were going to do with the deposits. But as a mayor of a small village that regularly saw smashed bottles all over the village, particularly on in the park, like the tennis courts and things like that. Once the bottle bill got passed, that stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Dan, weren't you a proponent for many years, I recall?
I've also been a fan since the beginning, yes.
Yeah. So, and you remember Dick Booth from way back, who was a legislator who was very, very involved. Well, I think that there's a couple of things that could really work out for us. First of all, we aren't recycling glass, nor is anyone in New York State besides the city. Hardly anybody in the United States. Sure, there's a study going on right now that DEC commissioned $1.4 million to Alfred State's Glass Institute to, come up with new markets for glass. But the truth is, when you look at glass bottles, they're a large percentage of the glass that is generated. And what's the problem with residential curbsiding glass is it winds up being broken, and it also contaminates the other materials. So it's a big problem. So we also spend a lot of money just for this stuff to be landfill cover, which is just not the highest and best use. And if you recall, when we first started our relationship with Casella, they had a beneficiation plant, but the funds aren't there to support this sort of thing on a small scale. So I look forward to seeing where this goes with the new folks at the state level.
Are there any other comments on the resolution? Are we ready to vote?
I had one question.
Oh, go ahead, Ann.
So there's no current bill right now, right, that we need to reference in here?
No, not at the moment. It was an old bill that is going to be completely updated. Oh, I forgot to tell you one important thing, and that is the state is also going to be considering a 10-cent deposit on everything versus 5. That's a national movement, and nickel, was done many years ago, and many people feel it's too little.
Thank you.
A number of states already have the dime.
That's true.
If you look at your returnable cans and things, they'll tell you. Okay, anything else, Ann? Let's vote. Let's go with Dave. Dave? Dave, are you voting yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, Ann?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I'm yes. That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, we got another resolution establishing a unit charge for the 2022 solid waste annual fee, ID 10530. Don't want to move that one.
This is consistent with the budget that was approved. I'm sorry,
Okay, it's on the table.
sorry.
Dan, is there a second? Seconded by Glenn. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say this is consistent with the, the approved budget and what we laid out, Jason and I, in a financial plan. I know it's not our most popular topic, but I think we just got to close it and move forward and see what happens next year.
Are we ready to vote? Go the other way. Dan?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
I vote aye. All right, we've got a budget adjustment resolution. C, recycling materials management, recycling and solid waste center, ID 10533. Want to speak to that?
Yes. This has been carefully prepared by myself, Rick Snyder, and Jackie in my office. What this is about, and I will remind you of about a year ago, and I explained this in the resolution and the explanation. When we got the proposal, it was after we had submitted the budget and we needed to make adjustments. We reviewed options with the legislature. There were 6 of them, Jason and I, for funding and financing the shortfall. And the option that was selected after a lot of discussion was it was called option 4. And that included using a certain amount of money from the annual fee, excuse me, and as well as some appropriated fund balance money. And when I
just want to make sure everyone has this. It wasn't in the packet. Sent to you.
it was supposed to be sent with the packet. I'm sorry.
Well, no, we got the title of the packet. Glenn and Dave and Ann, did we have copies here in the chamber? Do you all have this resolution?
Yes.
I think it was included in what we submitted to the legislature office. Okay. If everybody has
An email later.
Okay, everyone's got it. Very good. Thanks.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure everyone's looking at the same piece of paper.
Yeah. Yep. So when we talk about this, and it's a little bit complicated, we basically had, as you recall, we had to modify the budget and we had to increase the annual fee more than we planned. And we also knew we had to take money out of our fund balance. And the option that was picked was that the 2021 annual fee went to $70 and $5 a year each year after, and that we needed to take money from the fund balance to pay for the capital costs. We also had money from our equipment reserve and our construction reserve. So we pulled it together. Nobody was really happy. And as we weren't, but we made it happen. The really interesting news is that we are almost identical when you look at the appropriated fund balance to what we anticipated. We anticipated we would need $375,000, $375 and $877, and we took out $369 in actuality. So we were very well on target. And I really want to appreciate Jackie for her diligent work. So we would like approval for this to happen because right now we need to be able to pay the rest of the year's bills for the recycling center contractor.
Well, I like the idea of paying the bills.
I think we better.
They probably like it too.
Any questions, Dave?
They said they probably like it too.
That's probably true. Shall we vote on this, folks? Oh, I'm sorry, I need a motion. Someone's got to move it.
I'll move it.
Let me get it on the table. I thought I had it, but I guess I didn't. Dave moved it, seconds it. All right, so, Barbara, you want to say something?
Yeah,
else?
just a really important comment for you to carry with you. The fund balance with this happening will, at the end of the year, will be $2 million. So we still have about a 24% fund balance, which is above, the 18% that we want. Rick prefers at least 20% on our budget. So that is good. And when we give you our presentation, we'll share with you some positive news in terms of where we think we are going forward in the future with recycling revenues.
Okay. Let's vote. Dave,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
I vote aye. Okay. Barbara, should we do the information item and then take your presentation? There's a capital payment summary.
Right, there is. And that's for just a very small amount of money that would cover Barton and LaJudas helping us with the construction at the facility. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward on that one.
Any questions on that one? Okay, so then why don't you go ahead with your presentation on the.
Okay, I did have a question for the legislative office. I thought that there was going to be a budget transfer for the reusable bags. I had put it on the peak agenda, but Kathy Covert said that this was we were going to discuss the status with them because they had been getting status reports on a couple things. But is that resolution added to this agenda or is it being deferred to peak?
I don't think it's on this, on our. agenda.
That resolution was targeted for the next F&I meeting in December because this agenda had already gone out.
Oh, darn. Because we really need to buy those bags and have the money in place. Can it this once go to peak to be able to just get it to the next legislature?
Kathy had turned it down.
Kathy turned it down.
Kathy turned it down because she reports this is the program committee she would report to.
Do we have that proposed resolution? I mean, you say that it's time sensitive, Barbara?
Yeah.
I can have her to see if she can email a copy.
Yeah, could we, let's set this aside and get copies of.
Yeah, because what'll happen, Mike, is if it goes to your next meeting, there isn't a legislative meeting after that, and then we would have to wait all the way until January to get the purchase
That would
going.
be the second meeting. Let me check.
There's 2 meetings in December. Oh, you mean, there's no meeting after our.
Yeah.
Our F&I meeting. Okay, I'm with you. All right, well, let's do that. Ann's got her hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to add that unfortunately, with the new law that went into effect, I think November 1st, we can't bring up a resolution unless it was on the agenda, at least 24 hours ahead of time now.
Okay,
And it has to be posted, to the public, at least 24 hours. Katrina could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's a new law that went into effect.
you can do one of two.
Well, I was just going to say, if there is time sensitive, and you're right, Ann, thanks for reminding us about that law. We could probably do a 10-minute special meeting before a legislature.
Okay, that sounds like a great plan. Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Let's head in that direction. Go ahead.
okay, so Mike, you had requested a presentation
That's
about
part of our
recycling
goals, to
center.
see where we are
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, and we have a great presentation for you. So
Don't expect anything less.
well, it was great to work on it. It helped us. So what we're going to do is Leo and I are going to give you this presentation, and Jeremy is going to share the slides through Zoom. And if it makes sense, we'll go through the presentation and then we'll open up for questions. Does that sound good?
Yeah, so just folks, we've got the screen up and someone wants to make a comment, holler it out so I can recognize you if necessary. Go ahead.
Okay, so as you recall, we did wind up getting a contract update, and of course, it came quite surprisingly at a very high price, which I'm still not over yet. And we are functioning in that contract. Next slide, please. Just to remind you, so that contract is with Casilla, and there are 6 components. Single stream recyclables from commercial and residential are being transferred to the Ontario County facility, and cardboard from commercial is still baled at our facility with our old baler that's functioning well. We accept food scraps, both residential and commercial, at our transfer station and public drop-off. Same goes for yard waste. And we have the drop-off operations for many materials outside of single stream that can be either recycled or can go for composting. Finally, whatever trash is left over is transferred to the Ontario County landfill. And that's what we do. It's quite comprehensive. Next slide, please. So let me just remind you of what this contract, in all its many pages that Jonathan helped us to negotiate. The single stream recycling costs a whopping $143 a ton for the transfer, for the aspect of getting the stuff ready. That's called transfer, moving the material to Ontario County, and the processing into end products that can be marketed. Cardboard baling is done at our facility, and we pay $50 a ton, and that was a really good decision. The food scrap transfer and transportation to cubic composting is $80 a ton. The yard waste is $50 a ton, and we pay a monthly flat fee of roughly $53,000. Trash transfer, of course, is the cheapest, and that's $16.50 a ton. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to turn this part about the upgrades over to Leo, and he's going to explain what we've been doing here.
Good morning, everyone. So in 2021, we had made plans for some upgrades and equipment purchases. On that list, we made concrete repairs to a lot of the loading and dumpster bays. We replaced and repaired different trench drains, storm drains. We did remove an underground leachate storage tank that was no longer in use. That was coordinated with the DEC. It's tied to our 360 operating permit for the facility. So that was coordinated with them. We replaced 2 overhead doors. Actually, they were the last 2 original overhead doors that were put onto the facility back in mid-90s. We made some upgrades to the exhaust fans. We purchased 1 new exhaust fan. We repositioned some others. We made some upgrades to our safety system rather. We replaced a new fire alarm panel. And that project actually turned out to be a little more extensive than originally planned. Orel and Alan over at facilities assisted us with a lot of those upgrades, and I thank both of them for the assistance that they have supplied us with. Lastly, we purchased a new single stream compactor. The single stream compactor was roughly 50% of the total cost of this project. Total cost of the project was $1.1 million. We did come in under budget. on that. The work is complete, and we're expecting application for final payment in the next couple of weeks. Next slide, Jeremy. Thought I'd give you a little visual of this compactor. The compactor that the county purchased and owns is basically the blue and yellow equipment that you see in the picture. The nice shiny trailer is the transfer trailer that the compactor pushes material into. And then that's transported to Ontario County. The next photo is a little different angle of this thing. The compactor was installed. What you're looking at is new concrete push walls. And you also see a load of recyclable, single stream recyclable material on the floor. That material gets bucketed up and then dumped over the concrete push wall into the hopper of the compactor. The next slide. This is the opposite side of what you just seen. And this just simply shows the incline conveyor that takes that material up into the compactor. And then it's compacted into the trailer. Next slide.
Before Leo gets going with this, we're at the point in the presentation, I think that is very interesting. What we're going to do is give you a little history about where the recycling markets have been, which were terrible for a while, and give you an update on what we're seeing and where we're going to go in the future. So we have a couple of graphs that Leo's going to take you through to help you to understand where we are.
So this graph shows the history of the ACR. Now, ACR stands for the average commodity revenue. So for the single stream recycling that everyone puts in their curbside bin, puts out to the curb, that material is delivered to the Recycle and Solid Waste Center. It's then transferred through that compaction trailer to the Ontario County MRF. There it's separated and then it's marketed or sold. The ACR represents the average price that the materials were sold for. So add up what we got revenue-wise in a given month divided by the tons that were sold, and that gives us the average commodity revenue. I think it's important to know that this ACR, or average commodity revenue, that's not the revenue that the county receives. The county receives a revenue share percentage of this ACR. That can range anywhere between 70% and 90% of the ACR, depending on where the ACR is. The higher the ACR, the larger percentage share the county receives. I guess the other thing I want to make mention on this, you can certainly see the ups and downs of the markets in this slide. 2018 started to decline, 2019, 2020, 3 difficult years. And then the 2021 year to date shows those markets or commodities coming up. And before we go to the next slide, I just want to have you keep in mind 2017, where the ACR is close to $100, and 2021. Those 2 years are pretty comparable as far as the ACR goes. Next slide, Jeremy. So we wanted to kind of take a little closer look at the what's been happening here in 2021 as far as the ACR goes. The year kind of started out still somewhat down market. In June, we started to see an uptick in the ACR. And month over month since then, we've seen the ACR increase. I would say as far as what we look at with that graph is, I don't want to speak for Barb, but I like to see, 3 months, 4 months
Yeah.
increased revenue before we're very confident that, the market's strong and gonna hold for a bit. As an example of the opposite of that, you can kind of see where things started to come up in March and April, drop down in May. Next slide. So the first two slides kind of represented how our revenue, what it's based off from with the average commodity revenue. This slide shows the net cost of single stream recycling. The net cost is the cost per ton. That's the expense. That's that $143 that Barb mentioned, that we're now paying in 2021. It's the cost per ton minus the revenue per ton that the county received. So if we look at some history, 2016, we were in the neighborhood of $11 for net cost of recycling single stream material. 2017, our net cost was $1.50 roughly. And then you can see what our net cost has done since then through 2021. 2021, our net cost of recycling single stream materials currently year to date, $43 a ton. If you remember back to our first graph, I mentioned keep 2017's ACR and 2021's ACR in mind. That average commodity revenue was similar in those 2 years. And you can see from a cost standpoint how the new contract and the additional cost has affected our net cost. Same ACR in 2017 with a net cost of $1.50. And then the ACR being the same in 2021, we're now paying $43 a ton net cost. And
The next slide. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so picking up where Leo left off, you can see the impact of that large expense for the recycling. However, when you look at the net cost, it's, it's not even $50 a ton with the good markets. And that is a lot cheaper than the cost of disposal. So it still is a smart decision as the legislature made last year. And this committee were strong proponents of keeping recycling going. There's a couple of key things that I'm going to talk about here. And I think we have a reason to be positive but cautious. So we believe from the experts and what we hear and what we read that recycling markets should be stable. Now, I can't say for sure it's going to be at the level it was in this year, but it certainly won't be dropping back. And I agree with Leo entirely. We like to look at 4 months to see what the trend is. And I have a strong hunch by the time we start working on our budget in June, we'll have a good sense of what we're dealing with. The extended producer responsibility policies and laws that are taking hold around the state will reduce local costs and improve the actual product recyclability. Now, just remember, what does that mean? I'm on the New York State Extended Producer Responsibility Committee, and it's great because even though this is when the producers take responsibility for the cost of their packaging and for the marketing of recycling, processing and marketing. Canada has had something like this for many years and lots of countries in Europe. I would say what I'm seeing in the United States is a very steep growth of these laws. Maine has one as of this year, Oregon, California, and there's several more states in the process, including New York. And I really am optimistic for the first time that the producers will bear a good part of the cost of operations. However, what will have to happen is there's going to be a stakeholders group set by the law in New York State that includes producers, municipalities, the hauler, the facility operators, and what it will be called is a producer responsibility organization. Now, these things are going to take time. It's very likely, even if it passes this year, it's 2 or 3 years in the making, but it is a positive step for the long-term future. We talked earlier about the positive impact of an approved bottle bill that it's actually called the new bottle bill, which will increase glass recycling of bottles, and that is in the works. I think there's going to be a very, very busy legislative year. And what we're also seeing is an awful lot of companies, large companies, changing their packaging to have more recycling content and also to be recycled. That is where we're at right now. And I think we should talk about any questions that the committee might have.
Okay. Can you stop sharing so I can see people? Thank you. Questions? I have one, and that is, Barbara, you told us that the word was there were up to as many as 10 new processing plants possibly in the offing. Have we had any update on that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the main reasons why the markets have improved so much. Yeah, there's actually 5 or 6 right now that are open in our country and in the Midwest primarily. And the fact that we don't have a situation where overseas materials aren't being taken is happening. The other thing is contamination of recyclables. It's a project that everybody is working on. As you know, we present to you the contamination. So with less contamination and domestic markets, the clear situation is that the market conditions are improving.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's stability. It's stability.
Other questions on the presentation? This was an excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you. We enjoyed it.
Folks met our expectations, I think. And I think it was basically good news.
If you think that the legislature would benefit sometime next year, we can certainly do that.
I think it would be a great thing to have happen, to have these slides presented to them, explained. Especially when the new tax bills come out, they may start getting questions about the substantial increase in the solid waste fee. So I think giving them some information to have to explain things would be good.
Yep. One more very important thing. We were going to have to take a sizable amount of money to balance our budget this year. And it's looking, based on Jackie's very preliminary review, that we will have to take much less, which is great. And then we're also supposed to take about $250,000 from the fund balance for next year. And we're going to do a good look at that. And what we're planning to do is sometime in March, we're going to present the 5-year outlook on where our budget could potentially be.
And Koreman.
Thank you. Sorry, I have my cat here throwing things off my desk to try and get me to stand up and let him out. Hold on. Hey, sorry. So with some new legislators, coming on board, we're going to next year, we're going to encourage them to reach out to you to get a tour. And so then maybe when that happens, we can invite other legislators to come in and we could see some of the new equipment and the construction that's been done.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that, giving them a presentation also about this contract could be very beneficial as well.
Katrina McCloy has an update for us. Hot off the press.
Okay, I actually spoke with Kathy, and the law does state that when practicable, we have to notify post everything 24 hours in advance. And if this is time sensitive, then we can go ahead and act upon it. But I've also checked the meeting schedule, and we have a F&I meeting on December 16th, and the legislature meets on the 21st. So
Okay, we'll wait till then. That's fine.
Is that okay with everybody? All right, let's do it that way.
We're just gonna hold off on needing more money for the bags, and we'll do it later.
All right. Anything else for Barbara or any of her staff that are here today? Barbara, thank you for that presentation. Not only to help us with our goals, but it helps us be better legislators.
Thank you, Mike. And we all appreciate being able to give you more useful and positive information.
I'm going to go to Terry in just a second, but I just want to check in with Arel. Arel, is there anything that you want to report to us today? I see her. Thank you for being here at the meeting. Arel? Alan? I'm going to take it there isn't. All right. So let's go ahead and Terry.
Alan's.
Alan, I just wondered if you and Arel had anything you wanted to bring to us today. You weren't on the agenda, but offer that if you needed.
Well, we were prepared to talk about the safety audits and water fountains, but if you don't want that on the agenda, or you want to table it, that's okay with me.
Well, we can talk about it. I think we'll have some time. If you can hang out for just a minute, we've got a little presentation from Terry Carroll about the mental health.
I've got a hard break at 11, but I'll hang out up until then.
Oh, well, so do we.
Okay.
All right. Done by 11. Thank you, Alan.
Sure.
So let's go to Terry. Terry, thank you for being here. And we got your email saying that there's this issue with the district and mental health building, and you wanted our committee to be aware of it.
Yeah, and thank you for giving me a chance to come today on short notice. And we're also going to be at Peak on Monday just to keep everyone informed. And basically, I just have a couple of slides to talk about this. So let me pull them up real quick. All right, you see that?
Yes.
Fantastic. So what we're talking about is the Ithaca 2030 district. So for those of you that aren't familiar, just a quick refresher. It's a voluntary collective of commercial buildings that have a goal to meet a 50% energy reduction by 2030. And they have a couple of interim goals, one for 20% last year, another of 35% by 2025. And the goals are district wide. So it's the entire district trying to reduce energy usage by 50%. It's not any individual building. And so, collectively, the Ithaca 2030 district has 32 members, 6 of which have already, met 2030 reduction targets and are helping the district bring back that number. and they're looking for new members. And that's really why we're coming to you today, because we've been approached about adding a new building. And right now we have one building that's part of the membership. And so that's the Human Services Annex Building, COFA, as you can see here on the left. In addition to having that building be part of the district, we also serve on the steering committee. It started with Andrea, then Darby, and now I'm on the steering committee. We attend quarterly district meetings and try and contribute ideas and talk about, how the district can proceed and meet our goals. And really what we get out of it is actually the access to some pretty cool tools. And so this is an example of our dashboard that the 2030 district provides us. And it helps us to take a look at how our buildings are doing, the buildings that are part of this collective. And, we can see our total energy usage year over year. We can see how we're doing compared to the goal. If we're meeting energy use intensity, how we might compare to other buildings. And it also gives us some, pretty cool statistics on water consumption as well. And so we can kind of take a look at the water data as it's available. The water piece is a little bit more difficult, I think, in them gathering the data. But the nice thing about all of this is that we don't have a lot to do with it. We add a member, we add a building to the membership, and we give them access to our NICEAG bills, and they kind of do the rest in terms of building out the dashboard. And, they've approached us to add mental health largely because, I think they're trying to increase the square footage of the district overall, increase the impact, but also because they've seen our green facilities plan that, Arel, Allen, and Johnson Controls have put together, and they see that, the county could definitely be a net contributor to the district meeting its goals. And so I think, they'd really like to see some county buildings be added. And so when they approached us, we thought about what buildings made the most sense. The district itself is largely focused around, downtown Ithaca. So it took out a lot of options that we might consider, like the public health building or, the airport or even public works are all outside the geographic bounds of the district. And then the ones downtown, with the courthouse complex, the billing there is a little bit complicated. The Human Services building, we're still trying to figure out exactly what the HVAC system is going to look like there in the future. But, the mental health building is one that we're really targeting in phase 1 of the Green Facilities Project. And it's one that's probably going to be off natural gas fairly quickly. And so we thought that would be a great candidate to add. I'll repeat what I said before, it's not a lot of obligation on staff or on the building to meet the goals. It is a collective goal, not an individual goal. So it's not going to interfere with any plans that we might have in the future. And I've spoken with, both Arel and Frank and Harmony about this, and everyone's on board. And for us, we really see it as an opportunity to get a good look at kind of the before and after upgrades, but also to demonstrate that county leadership, to showcase, what we're doing. And as we're doing the work on the mental health building, we'll be going to the 2030 district and providing them updates and showing them how we were able to upgrade and retrofit our building, which I think is a great opportunity to really show the other buildings in the district what's possible. So, we took a look at the resolution that authorized, adding COFA to the 2030 district. And, our understanding is that we don't need another formal resolution. So we just thought we would come give a brief update on, how the 2030 district is going and kind of our intention to put in the mental health building. And, provided there's no concerns from F&I and from PICA, that's something we plan on doing, probably before the end of the year. So just a quick one for you today. I don't want to take up too much of your time so you can get to Alan. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
So you mentioned that you've had discussions with Arel about this. How about administration? Lisa, Amy, are you folks on board on this one too? Or are you investigating or what?
I'm not sure exactly if Lisa's had more conversations. I knew that this was being sought out. I don't believe that we have any reason to deny that. So I think that we're on board with it at this point.
Just Carrie, just make sure that you're keeping Lisa informed about this too.
Absolutely.
All right. Any questions, comments on this issue? Just for information purposes. And Koreman.
So I like the part where you're saying that this could help the other buildings, other building owners to help them with some of their ideas to retrofit their buildings with the work that we'll be doing. And so I'm just wondering, does that kind of skew if we're looking at, they're looking at 50% reduction in their, and what was the greenhouse gas emissions?
It's looking at energy usage.
Energy usage.
Yeah.
So they're looking at 50% reduction in energy usage. So it's not necessarily greenhouse gas or carbon. It's just energy.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. All right, I guess, yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll have to think about it, but I can't see any reason to not do that.
It seems logical to me. Anybody else? Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, thank you all.
Amy, I skipped over you, so let's see if you have anything for us this morning.
It's okay, Mike. I don't actually have any updates for you. Having had a legislature meeting this week, I think we've covered all the updates, and I don't have any committee specific at this point.
Okay. As far as transportation is concerned, I did attend the ITCTC meeting yesterday, or the day before. There were a number of amendments to the TIP. It was a joint planning and policy committee meeting. Most of them had to do with the new availability of some money that's being brought in from other projects that weren't funded in the region, so that we can do some more shaping and paving projects next year, including Route 13 and Route 366, and there's one in the city near Cornell. I can't give you all the details on them, but we can get those for you. I'm sorry we lost Arel, or not Arel, but Fernando, who would have all of these. But it's good news for us. We're getting some more roads repaired next year. I think we'll be on the schedule. Nothing new on Route 34 bridge. Nothing was said. But that's what I have as far as transportation. Dan.
Just mention a quick TCAT thing or two.
Sure, and then I want to get to Ralph.
Very quick. So Tompkins County is going to be receiving $17.8 million from the infrastructure bill targeted for public transportation. So TCAT will see a lot of that, and Gadabout will, and the county will also get a little bit. So it's not been decided yet exactly who gets what, and it's certainly not been decided how that money will be spent. But what is decided is that it's very good news.
I couldn't help thinking this morning, I read a report that MTA in New York City is going to spend, they're going to get 60, I think, new electric buses at $1 million a piece, making them the biggest electrified fleet. But we were ahead of them with our 6. Anyway. Thank you, Dan, for that report. Arel, and welcome, and thanks for being here. We're glad to hear from you.
Yes, good morning. Lisa had told me at the last committee meeting that you went over the committee goals, and there were a few items there that you wanted an update on.
Please go ahead.
Okay, and so there were 3 of them. One was looking at the water fountains in county buildings to help reduce use of single-use of plastics. I know Alan is on this meeting as well. So he is part of the EPP committee.
Yep.
And at this point, we did several months ago, we presented to this committee it's an inventory by building of the water fountains that we had, including the coolers. Most apartments have these water coolers. And then Alan, through this committee, has been meeting with them And he had suggested doing a survey to survey the departments to really identify the needs, building by building and department by department. And so the survey went out. He received responses, I think 13 responses. And really those responses confirmed what Alan had been recommending. Our recommendation is not to replace all, water fountains in all buildings. There are a few that we've identified that need water fountains where they can fill these, water bottles. Otherwise, most other locations have these water coolers that allow for, filling of these water bottles, or they have sinks in their kitchenette areas to accommodate that. And so at this point, they have not met again. The committee meeting has not met, or the committee has not met for this month in order to make that recommendation. We do not recommend to do all buildings. So there are certain buildings where we cannot do retrofit of water fountains. Any new buildings that we would look at in the future, such as the Center of Government, we would include the water fountains that are already designed for these water bottles, fill stations. But at this point, we've, I think, identified 3 buildings where we would retrofit an existing water cooler, which are very old style water coolers or water fountains with these water fountains that allow for fill stations for water bottles. So that's the first one. If there are any questions on that one, otherwise I can move on to the next one.
Questions, Morel, about the water? And Koreman, of course. It's her, this is her baby. We appreciate it.
Barb had her hand up, so can we see what she wanted to ask?
Yeah,
first?
just 2 really quick things. The environmental product procurement meeting, next meeting is mid-December. So obviously it'd be good for Alan to give us an update, and it sounds like he's planning on it. The other thing that I have a question about, did you take into account the cost to departments of the bottled water that comes in versus the cost of the water filling stations? My concern is that renting is not always the best answer to, having something permanent like a fill station.
And before you answer that, I'm going to tag on, because that goes along with my question. As far as the renting of the water coolers, they're 5, I believe they're 5-gallon containers, and at least the one in the legislature, you don't have to pick it up and put it upside down to put it on anymore. So it's a little bit easier ergonomically, but still we're asking whoever, has to refill that. It's moving 5 gallons of water, which is pretty difficult. And then storing multiple bottles somewhere, full and empty bottles, and then other people having access to them. Because sometimes, again, at the legislature, they're filled, it's always filled. But I don't know if in other departments that can be an issue, a bigger issue too, of waiting for someone else to fill up or move these big, heavy 5-gallon bottles.
Yeah, ours are much bigger than 5 gallons, and it is an issue here.
Oh, they're bigger than 5 gallons?
Hmm?
Wow.
Let's let Morel respond.
Yeah. Well, I was going to give time to Alan. He's the one that's been more involved in this.
Let's let Alan respond.
Well, Alan's going to respond. So I guess to answer your question, Barb, it's not a one-size-fits-all for replacement of these water fountains with ones with fillable spouts. So I'd have to really go back and see which buildings, which departments we would have to replace a water fountain with, because they're all different. Some are standalone, some are inserted into the
Alan, I'm
wall.
sorry to interrupt, but I'm not talking about the fountains. I'm talking about replacing the rental units that we're paying for on a monthly basis. I mean, quite frankly, in my situation, I would love to replace the water fountain for reasons of COVID and that kind of thing. And I'd love to replace the payment every month for the rental. So I
Right,
don't
so
know.
you're talking about replacing
Two things.
building water fountain with one that has a spout.
And also replacing the rental that we pay for the, Chemung water that.
Yeah,
I think we're talking two issues here. I think we charge them with looking at water fill stations. I don't think we actually charge them with the question that you're asking, Barbara. Maybe it's a good question.
It's actually a question from the EPP team that's looking at it from the standpoint of carbon emissions. We can talk about it at our meeting.
Yeah, I think what we found, at least through the survey that Alan did and our conversations with departments, I mean, the departments are paying for these, the water coolers, making them more convenient. Many are in their department, not in lobby areas. So those are for convenience. So as far as we know, except for what Barb has mentioned here, most departments are pleased with the situation they have set up. What we've identified are buildings such here as Public Works, where we have high volume of like highway staff that are coming in from the field that needing to fill up water bottles quickly. And so and they have probably a 30-year-old water fountain where we could see, justification for replacing it with these newer styled, fillable water fountains. And I think the other building was the old courthouse, your building. And there was a third building, I can't remember at this point, Alan. But at this point, we've not made any final decisions. We were waiting until the next meeting to make recommendations to the internal committee and then come up with a plan. I mean, to replace with these newer retrofitted type water fountains, it's costly. It's in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, which includes both the plumbing and the labor, including the faucets. So it would be something that we would then have to create a project to do that. It's not anything that we could cover currently within our operating budget.
I have to say, I do remember when we started adding the bottled water, the 5-gallon bottles of different buildings, because people were asking for them. The employees were asking for them. They wanted to get away from the city water with chlorine and other things in it. And the other thing that happened about the same time is the number of vending machines was reduced. So we don't have vending in all the buildings anymore, for example. And we used to have a much wider variety of vending machines back then. So there's been a change. I don't know whether the employees are happy with going back to city water or not. So we want to keep that in mind a little bit too.
Well, yeah, and I didn't mention that, but that is one thing that Alan and I have discussed. We've known that over the years that there are several employees or departments do not like using the water fountain because of that, and that's why they've gone to the bottled spring water. So that's why I'm saying that putting all the expense to upgrading these water fountains may not improve the situation. Employees, because departments are paying for these, the spring water coolers. I don't know if it will change, their behavior and practices.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure, and then Carol's got 2 more things, and we got a couple other things on the agenda, so let's move along. Go ahead.
And I'm just wondering if we weren't, maybe having some more conversations, like Barb said, would help. Maybe we weren't clear on what we were looking for. I think part of what I was looking for was to get away from also the plastic cups that now sit next to, whether they're plastic or paper, but most of the place that I've seen in the county, they're plastic cups that sit next to these water fountains. So trying to get away from that and trying to make ones that are easier for water bottles. So for instance, the one we have at the legislature, some of my water bottles fit in them in the current dispenser, and some of my water bottles I can't get under the dispenser. So anyway, trying to get away from the single-use plastic cups and bottles as much as we can.
Okay, well, yeah, that's good. I know that some of the departments actually have their own cups that are reusable, but that's a good point. I agree with that.
Well, you had two other things.
Yes, the second one was the second committee goal was discuss the safety and maintenance checks in buildings and do everything we can to ensure all county buildings are safe. And I know at the last meeting, because I listened to the YouTube of that, it was unclear who raised it, but as far as what I was going to report is that we do an annual safety audit of all county buildings. It's led by Mark Friebel from the Health Department, Health and Safety Coordinator. And so Alan does those with Mark, and the union representatives are invited, as well as departmental safety staff, to do those. So to do all the buildings, and it's actually a very long checklist. It's over 100 items that they go through safety, from fire systems to office safety, entrances, and it's very thorough and complete. And so they do those annually. Also, we do maintenance checks through contract of all our life safety systems. So as fire alarm systems are tested and inspected annually. Our fire sprinkler systems are tested and inspected quarterly. And we also have security systems. We have duress systems, like the legislature chambers has a panic alarm system. So if there's an issue, a concern, the staff there have either remote lanyard type buttons or buttons that are built into their desks, as well as Treasury and a few other departments. HSB also have a panic alarm or duress system. We have cameras in every county building. We've actually been approached a lot in the last couple of years from law enforcement for camera footage because of increased crime in around several of our city county buildings. And we also have access control. All the buildings are locked through a fob or reader system like you have at your building. So those are the things that we have and that we do. It was unclear to us when you were talking about safety, if it meant what you were talking about, safety and security, or basically just safety as far as the safety audits that we do at county buildings. But yes, those are done annually. And actually, we'll be starting those up pretty soon in the next couple of months with Mark again.
Interesting. There are questions about that issue? That's helpful.
And then
third item.
Excuse me?
Your third item?
Okay, the third one says review most recent ADA report of county facilities. So Alan did a very thorough review. It's been almost 4 years now to WDIC committee. He did an update a year or two later, but then he also went to WDIC again last month to do a report and update to that committee. So as far as, it's not a transition plan, it's a self, what do you call it, Alan? Self-evaluation or assessment of that. And so all our buildings, county buildings, are ADA compliant. In some areas, we've exceeded that, and either requests from departments or we see a need to do that. And what we've done more recently in a few of our county buildings is put operators on the entrance doors to buildings where you have high either employee or public traffic, like we have on the DeWitt entry doors at your building near the old courthouse, Human Services building. We did those a few years back. So we've been doing that. It's not a requirement to put those operators unless the doors are hard to pull. If there's, I think it's either 5 pounds of tension more than that required. So we're always open and willing to make those types of improvements in any building or as we meet with departments. The assessments that have been done identify areas where improvements need to be made, and they tend to be minor. Things like a threshold, maybe it's raised, and it makes it more difficult to traverse with the wheelchair. In the old courthouse, specifically when we designed that space, some of you may recall that we reported at the time that we invited Larry Roberts from Flick to actually visit the building before we were complete to give us some guidance or advice on any improvements that he might see that we should do. And so he actually entered the building from the outside, used the door operator, the ramp in the back, the elevator, everything. And the only comment that he made was the public bathroom that is just behind you, Mike, there. We had initially, we're going to put a vestibule of 2 doors, that initial door there, and then one further in the bathroom. And he indicated that it would be hard to maneuver to open 2 doors. So we eliminated the inner door and just put a privacy wall there. So yeah, we're very open to getting any constructive criticism from Flick and Larry, and so we've done that over the years. He is always one that will contact us if he's aware of anything as he's either visiting any of our buildings that we should make improvements to. So we've not had any formal complaints for many years, and the ones that we've had in the past that refer to ADA tend to be with handicapped accessible parking spaces. And that's usually when it's usually the Department of Justice gets involved. And that most of the time it's people are unclear that if it's a private parking lot like we have at the court complex, the ADA laws requiring handicapped accessible parkings do not apply. It's only when it's open to the public that you have to have designated quantity number of ADA parking spaces close to entrances to buildings. So as you may notice in the court complex, those parking spots that are usually have signage, if they're not needed, we bag them. And that's only because it's a private parking lot. But anywhere where it's public, like Human Services building, right up at the building, those spots are always designated. We cannot bag those, or only individuals that have, the placards can park in those spaces. Same at the health department. It's all public. It's not a private lot per se. So those are the only complaints that we've received. But we're always open, either as you legislators, if there's something that you notice in a building that you'd like us to consider to make an improvement, we're always willing and open to doing those types of things.
So let me add that the
Go ahead,
report,
Al.
the reports for these, Mike, are all on the Tompkins County website under compliance.
All right. Questions? Thank you for helping us review all of those items. And all the work you've done, both of you. Appreciate that. And I want to say something. I thought your audio today was the best that we've had. I don't know if you made any changes, but you were very clear today.
Oh, really? No. I cleaned up my laptop a little bit. Maybe that was it. I don't know. It goes a lot of places because it has to be portable. So it goes to every building. If I have an emergency, I have to open it up.
We can hear you very well today.
That's good to know. A quick report: the transformer at the main courthouse is as you've noticed, it's up and running. It's been up and running almost 2 weeks now. We are working with the landscaper to do screening around the transformer. You've seen the sodding, the grass around the building. They are going to do some additional work there. If you walk around there, you'll see white paint. So they're going to do some trimming to make the grass more curvilinear the way it was before. But want to let you know that that project is, for the most part, as far as the transformer portion, is complete. And we're very happy. The transformer that failed was removed last Saturday morning. And so now the electrical room downstairs seems much, much larger with the 2 transformers removed. But that project is very successful. We worked with Labella Engineers, Matco Electric, our electrician, Josh Miner, Alan, Bob Dyson, our HVAC tech, and myself on that project. And so I know it happened in June, but it's been a long process.
Not an easy one, but we appreciate all the work your department did and the forbearance of all the employees in the building.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. On another topic, I heard that possibly the cleaners were going, some or all the cleaners were going to be moved to day shifts rather than night shift. Is that accurate?
Yes. I've been discussing that for probably the last 7 months, initially with Jason, which he supported, then with Lisa. And then I've been talking to department heads at every building, probably for the last 6 months, and then shared it as a group to all department heads at our October department head meeting. And I've had great support from all department heads. There were 5 reasons why we were doing it. One was saving energy, not running lights, cooling or heating after hours. The other one, which is becoming more and more of a concern, is safety and security of our staff that are working in buildings until midnight. In some places, 1 or 2 individuals. In the human services building, mental health building, the library, and main courthouse. The other is it allows for more flexibility in our operations by now having just 1 shift, and it's going to be a staggered day shift. It'll be early morning and then kind of mid-morning so that we can cover the operating hours of all buildings and departments. But it allows more flexibility by having a larger cleaning group that our supervisor can either reassign if we need to. If there are emergencies, we have now a larger group to draw from. And then also morale. Morale has always been a challenge for those night staff it's a small group, they're by themselves, very little contact with our staff, on the day staff, and also very little interaction with the departments or the employees in those departments, except for the old jail, because they work all hours there. So our night cleaner there can associate with those. But also they don't have access to a lot of the opportunities that the employees in the day shift have to attend trainings, to, visit HR if they have questions. And so for all of those reasons, we made that decision. And as I said, it's been well received by all the departments. There were a few things that we had to overcome as far as, challenges, but we've received agreement from all the departments that this was a good thing to move forward with. And it won't take effect until the 1st of January.
And the staggered shift, do they go like through the evening? I mean, not till midnight, but do they go through the evening, like how late, or during the day?
Anything after noon is considered the second shift. So it'll be early, which is 5 or 6. They start at 2 times, 5 or 6 in the morning, and then the staggered later in the morning will be either 9 or 10. So they would end no later than 6.
So they're all going to be working during the day.
Correct.
Okay, and they are wanting this. They're receptive to the staff.
You open it up first for getting their response, the cleaning staff, and then after that, I reached out to department heads, and then we talked initially with county administration before moving forward. We talked with HR. So we've had buy-in from all groups. And to be honest, when it was first proposed by Alan at the beginning of this year, my gut reaction was no. But what I told Alan is, well, sell me on it. Give me the pitch. I mean, write it up. Tell me the pros and cons. And to be honest, there was only one con, which was resolved. But I told him when he said we're going to save energy, that was a low blow, because he knows that I'm all for saving energy. So when he put that as a reason, I said, well, okay, you've got me. So
yeah.
No, we have buy-in from all staff, supervisors, and department heads and county administration to move forward on this.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks for the update on that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your reports today. That helps us a lot.
All right, thank you.
I just want to ask Aaron, did you want to talk to us about anything this morning?
I just wanted to join in just to see what was going on around the county, that's all.
Always glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we move ahead and do the minutes then? October 19th and 21, I'll move them together or separately. And moving them together.
I'll move both.
Comments or corrections? There's a second by Dave. Those in favor, Dan,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
I'm a yes, so those are approved. We've got a budget adjustment transfer for information for office equipment. Any question on that? Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you all. And I think we'll be adjourned. I see Dave's hands there, so that's